Yeah, just introduce yourself and what you are doing now possibly and that type of thing, and then we'll get on with the questions. So we'll start with Robert. Okay, all right. And all candidates, of course, we have 90 seconds to answer your questions. Let me go over the rules. I guess that's what I was looking for. The rules. Please state your name, the office you're seeking, and then answering the following question. So this is all inclusive. What do you think are the most important solutions at the county level to address sea level rise and flooding? Okay, Robert, we'll start with you.
Good evening, I'm Robert Bender. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 4. So one, I think the first thing is awareness, and that's why we're here, is to be aware of the issue and that we can plan accordingly for how we can improve our areas. I think there's also reinforcement. Currently, right now, I work with commercial insurance. I am the broker for the county and the city and a large private entity in the west side of Pensacola. And so that's something that I deal with on a daily basis. I've dealt with them when the floods came in 2012, dealt with them when the floods came in 2014, so we always look at remediation. We look at ways to reinforce and to have not to have the effect that they did before. And even though in 2014 we had more than 10 inches of rain than we did in 2012, they had over $1 million less in losses than they did in 2012. As a county commissioner, it's our stormwater drainage. It's putting in the necessary infrastructure to handle the water. Again, we see that the sea levels are rising and the reinforcements that we can do. That's something that wasn't mentioned before, that the number of those that are impacted, that's District 2 and District 4. Pensacola Beach, along the bluffs, and even Scenic Heights area has flooding. That's where we were in the 2014 floods. My wife called me from Summit saying, hey, I can't get home, what do I do? I said, get on the median, get to high ground, get out of the water. So those are the things that we need to do as county commissioners, is infrastructure and to improve the reinforcement. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Strickland. I guess we're going to stand, so how you guys doing tonight? Thanks for inviting me.
You can sit, but you
that's
can
good.
sit.
Proper watershed management is one thing we can do. That prevents flooding downstream. Infrastructure obviously is an issue that we could offer developers discount fees if they include permeable plans, for their developments, that their development designs. We could do that. We could also work with our partners like ECWA, City of Pensacola, the Northwest Florida Water Management District to protect our water wellheads, to make sure that they're not getting, do whatever we can to protect those, because that is our drinking water source. We can continue to do that. There's only so much you can do out at the, once the water level rises, as it's predicted to do, there's only so much you can do. But I am the only candidate at the Beach Forum in April who stated that I was against privatization of our beaches. This is a prime reason, that if we maintain those leases ourselves and we have that ability, God forbid we ever have to use that word retreat, and that is something, long-term down the road that you may have to, look at. So those are just some of the things that you could do. You could also, flexibility is the key. We don't know, things are changing every day. Our shoreline changes every day, and we have to be prepared no matter what may come. So that's it. Thank you.
I am Bill Fetke, running for County Commissioner, District 4. I'm the only one on my door hanger that actually talks about stormwater management as one of my 3 top keys, that and infrastructure. It's crucial. I am the only one up here that is a certified stormwater volunteer. And I plan on becoming a certified inspector after this election. So I do care about stormwater as a whole. One of the biggest problems we have is our concrete jungle that we are building. Downtown we have impervious surfaces everywhere. We have no bioswales anywhere. We have no way of capturing stormwater down there, and it's going right into the bay. Also, Carpenter's Creek. We have flooding there. Every time it rains, we have a heavy downpour. Spring Hill subdivision floods. And that's because FDOT did not do a proper job of building the 9th Avenue Bridge. Back in June 10th, we had a big heavy downpour in the middle of the afternoon, and we had cars washed away on that bridge because it flooded. And also at Underwood and 9th Avenue, we had a car that flooded. That ended up being washed away in the flood. We need to come up with better stormwater management. Like I said, I'm part of the Carpenter's Creek cleanup crew. We've done a great job so far cleaning up. Over 26,000 pounds of garbage we've taken out of there that would have went into the Bayou Tahar. Also, we have illicit discharges that get put into Bayou Tahar, and that's causing our water damage. So we need to do a better job with stormwater management as a whole.
Thank you. Okay, now that we've introduced ourselves with the introductory question, we're going into questions. And Mr. Fetke, if you'll start first, then we'll come back this way, and then I'll round robin everybody, so it's fair. Okay, what is your single most significant personal or professional accomplishment regarding sea level rise, the environment, energy conservation, or sustainability?
Well, I've kind of already addressed that. I'm part of the Save the Carpenter's Creek cleanup crew. It's been awesome doing it. You know, I did it one time because I wanted to start volunteering, and I really enjoyed it, and I got satisfaction of actually seeing it cleaned up a little bit. And now a year and a half later, you know, we have mullet back in the creek. You know, what an accomplishment that is. When I tell people that, you know, the ones who've lived here for a long time, they've been in shock over it, that something could actually grow in there again and live in there. So that's a huge accomplishment that Emerald Coast Keepers has been able to do, and I'm just glad to be a small part of it. And then also, like I said, I am a certified stormwater volunteer. You know, I'm learning more and more every day. I've got great teachers that are teaching me more about it and to become better educated, and that's only going to help our water as a whole. So, you know, my next step would be to become, whether I win or lose this election, I will become a stormwater inspector, and then look out, because I'm coming after everyone.
Robert.
So as I said, I do commercial insurance right now, and so on almost a weekly, daily basis, I am working with entities in the local area. Flood zones are always changing, and so we're working with them on how to mitigate their risks, either through insurance or through reinforcement. And then that, as an intern with Home Depot at Home Services, I also put together a playbook that brought together the incentives and offers that various power, electric, whatever type of entity was offering, so that we could give it to our salespeople to get in the hands of the homeowners, so that if someone was putting in energy efficient windows, increasing the insulation in their house, they could find out what rebates were available and use those to offset some of the costs. So again, and this was 8 years ago that I was doing this, and so this has been on the forefront, growing up here, being involved in everything as well. So it is important that you are involved in our work.
Well, I'm an avid outdoorsman and fisher person, and I've always maintained a fishing license. And a lot of people were surprised that those fishing licenses actually go towards a lot of big environmental issues. And without the sportsmen, to be honest with you, we wouldn't have near the funds that we have. So that's a real big part of my life. So environment's always been important to me, and I've always, you know, been involved in different aspects. In the Navy, as an air traffic controller, you know, we did our share of cleaning greens up and down Navy Boulevard many times. So I've done that, but I guess my biggest accomplishment is with my kids. Now my kids are 26 and 27. It's hard for me to say that, hard to believe. But I guess the thing I'm most proud of is what we taught them. We taught them that don't wait for somebody else, that you do it yourself. If trash is on the ground, you pick it up. Many times we've taken our kids, whether it be to the lot next door, because, you know, trash amongst trash, you know, if you see trash, I've always taught them that just brings more trash. And so we've, on our own, gone out and done our own little cleaning green. So I'm most proud of that. We passed that along, you know, to be environmentally conscious and take care of our environment, because it's the only one we have. So.
All right, very good. Okay, next question, and we'll start with you again, Terry, and then we'll go to Bill. Okay, Robert. Okay, next question. All candidates, addressing sea level rise and flooding will require actions from all levels of government. But where do you think the county needs to play a role in leading the response to sea level and rising floods?
Well, you know, there's a lot we can do on a local level. One is, you know, learn to diversify our economy. You know, we're a tourism-based economy, and we need to quickly change that if we want to stay ahead of the game. So that's one thing that we can do. And, you know, we're attracting the right kind of companies down here that are not tourism-based. Another thing we can do is, you know, watch development. You know, as it was mentioned in one of the other districts we're speaking of, it is to make sure that we are not allowing development. You know, I have not taken any contributions from any developers. I have no businesses actually at all that I've asked money from. You can go to escambiavotes.com and see. The only business I've taken money from is my personal chiropractor. Now, the reason I've done that is so I won't owe anybody anything. So it's going to be very hard for them to get a waiver from me if it's not the right thing to do. So that's one of many things that we could do. You know, the other thing we could do is, when it comes to the beach, is to, really look at those conservation areas and make sure that we do stop. I know that we just, passed the referendum, if you would, and I'm out of time. I don't want to hear the bell.
Well, the one thing we could do, the beach is still Escambia County's golden egg. 40% of all revenue that the county brings in comes from Pensacola Beach, and we need to protect that. One way we could do that is making sure our dune line is secure. We've had a lot of problems with the dune line lately, and it needs to be refurbished and keep replenished. But there's always so much at the county level that we can do. Obviously, my big thing is stormwater management, and it'll continue to be stormwater management. The more water that gets flushed into the Gulf and gets it flushed into the bays, that's not a good thing for us locally. The more tree limbs and garbage gets thrown into the water, that raises water. It's not all the sun, it is some of us also, but sun radiation does play a part in melting of the ice caps and causing sea level to rise also. But we just have to keep working with the experts and do the best that we can here at the local level and work with our state and federal also.
So I have been affected by this. It's the house that my grandparents moved into in the 1970s. Was destroyed in Hurricane Ivan, and that house is there's still not a house on that lot today. When my grandmother passed away a few years ago, my mother acquired that property, and we just had to go back in and raise the seawall to match some of the neighbors to make sure that her property doesn't get washed away. And it's a seawall that's been there for years. So it's again something that I've lived firsthand and seen the effects of. As far as, again, Pensacola Beach and the areas represented in District 4, it's renourishing of the beaches. Even the beaches on the south side need to be renourished, and finding that sand that we can use. The county came in the last few years when we started with when we took over the beach and helped with the disbursement of the sand. So that's one way that the county was able to go ahead and help Pensacola Beach.
Okay, so we will start with you again, Robert, and then go straight down, all right? And this is your question. The major response to sea level rise and storms so far on Pensacola Beach has been beach renourishment, which has occurred 3 times since 2002. Who should pay for these projects? And are there any other adaptation strategies you would support?
Again, Pensacola Beach is unique in that it's a public beach. So I think that, yes, we should be paying for it. It's not a private beach that you're renourishing, it's a public beach. It's the beach that we all go to, again, our tours come to see, and so to have that available for them and to maintain our tourism is great. I am open to ideas. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. The one thing you'll learn from me as being a county commissioner is that I am always available, always willing to listen to ideas, and we'll work and give you an honest answer on my opinions. So yes, I would consider other options.
And you're going to get a lot of agreement. It is a public beach. The beach is owned by Escambia County citizens, and so it is going to be nourished by our tax dollars. And they do provide about 47% of our tax base tax base does come from the beach. And sales tax. So it is going to continue to be renourished by public dollars. Something like we just did at Perdido Key with when we went and I think it was almost the entire key there, we went with the CO project. We need to continue to do that, hold as much of that sand in as possible. And again, things change, we need to be flexible. And I think that's the key, is flexibility. If new ideas, new technology comes, we need to look at all options.
It is our beach, it's the taxpayers' beach, and we need to make sure we keep it up. Very simple. But there are grants out there. There's beach grants out there, there's different ways to find funds. It always doesn't have to come out of our pocket directly. And that's what we need to do a better job of, is getting those grants and talking to the state, talking to the feds, and coming up with different solutions to this problem. It's not always about us forking out cash. There are other ways to re-nourish beaches. We heard it earlier with the living seashore, or shoreline, sorry, living shoreline. There's other ways to create a beach and to replenish it, and we have to look at all these different options. I'm not an expert in this, so we will call in the experts and, we'll make this happen.
All right, this is your last question, and we'll open it to the audience. So if there are any questions, please get them to Allie back there. And but this will be your last round of questions, and then we'll go to the audience, okay? All right, and since we start with Robert, we'll start with Terry and then go so forth. Escambia County is planning a nearly 13 million traffic project that would add roundabouts and pedestrian underpasses to Pensacola Beach. Are you concerned about such a large investment in infrastructure on an island that is vulnerable to sea level rise and storms?
Hello? Yes, I'm very concerned about that, actually. I've gone on record in multiple forums. This is only about the 20th forum we've had, so I've already gone on record on multiple forums that I've never been for the roundabouts. I've never been for the culverts that run underneath the ground, that you scurry through like rats to get to the other side. I've just never been a fan of that. It doesn't make good sense to me, especially if you take anything in consideration that what we're talking about here tonight. Besides all that, even if it wasn't rising at all, even if the ocean was going to stay flat forever, I still would be against it, because it's a big investment on a project that's really about parking. It doesn't matter, what you do at the beach. You could have additional ferries, you could turn around and build giant parking garages, and at the end of the day, you're still going to have more people want to come to that beach than we have parking for. So it's really not a congestion issue, it's a parking issue. I love beautification projects, don't get me wrong, but not at our taxpayers' expense when we have other bigger projects at hand.
I would bid against this project from the outset. I've spoken out as a county commissioner about this. I am not for any project that is going to take away all of the LOST money for District 4 for X number of years. I refuse to allow it to happen. We have issues throughout this district that need help. We have Tunbridge, which is a road just south of Johnson that has a 3-foot canal that was built to drain Johnson Lake, we call it Johnson Lake, that goes into the bay. Well, every time that we get too heavy of a rainfall, everyone's backyard there floods because we didn't build it deep enough. And that's what I'm kind of concerned about. Anytime the government gets involved in trying to fix something, we always create a bigger problem down the road. So we got to take a step back and look at this from a different angle and from an environmental angle. Where is that stormwater going to wash off to when we're on top of a hill? Because that's what the roundabout is. It's going to be on top of a hill. Where's that water running down to? Is it going to cause a flood somewhere else? I haven't seen those studies, so we need to look at that a little bit closer.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any card questions?
I'm going to answer the question. No, I think, again, parking is the #1 issue out there that needs to be addressed. The other thing is, though, is that we also need to make sure that we are taking care of the citizens that live out there. Right now, they feel like they are trapped on that island when 5 o'clock rolls around on Friday, maybe a little before, and they can't leave again until Monday. And so there is a congestion and traffic management problem that needs to be addressed. Is the roundabout the right way? I think, again, you need to start off with parking. Look at some of the what we've already implemented in terms of the AI for the stoplight. And we need to look at ways, I think, to get pedestrians out of the way to alleviate them from stopping traffic. And then look at that. But I think the main thing is, though, is that we know in 15 years from now, when we have to go to replace that bridge, that traffic pattern is going to change. The number of cars coming across, the rate at which they come, maybe they don't have to stop to pay the toll because we've caught up to technology by then. And so we need to make sure that whatever we plan for, we plan for the next 15 years and can address those concerns. Thank you.
All right. Do we have questions from the audience now? 2 questions, all right? So let's start with Bill, come this way, and then the second one we'll go with Robin, go that way. How about that? All right, here we go. Taking the threat of sea level rise into account, would you rezone oceanfront single family to multi-use/condo? Multi-use/condo.
I can take this one.
Yeah.
Really not quite sure where the question's going with that. To me, you know, as a free market person, if a person wants to build a condo and not do the proper due diligence and build it incorrectly and they end up flooding, that is their fault. As you see what's going on right now with all the homes that are being built, they're all being built on stilts, and that's for very good reason. They're being smart about it. But, you know, to me, I don't see the difference in how that, you know, with the sea level rising, it still comes down to the individual person who is developing it and what they want, and, you know, there's consequences for everything in life, and that's one of them.
You know, as far as controlling the, through zoning, I think that's what we do all the time. We always control through zoning. That's how we control growth as a county. So I definitely think that if you have a, you know, right now, I don't want to see any more development out at Pensacola Beach personally, you know, and granted, I'm not the only person that gets to make that decision, but just on a personal level, I don't want to see any more growth. We have infrastructure issues, we have traffic and congestion issues, we were all just talking about that. So, you know, would we take a single family home, whether you took ocean rising or not in consideration, would you really want to zone it for multi-family or condo? No, I don't think so. You know, the other factor is that, you know, when we do these types of developments, if they do come in, we need to make sure that we're putting on the developer infrastructure costs to make sure that we're covering ourselves, so we don't get stuck with the infrastructure costs after the fact. So we need to look at that.
So yes, so rezoning is something that we deal with. As far as Pensacola Beach, there is a cap on the number of condos that we can put out there, and I'm going to see to it that that stays that way. I do not want to see more high-rises out there. I think what makes Pensacola Beach unique is that it is I still say it's a little quaint, at least compared to our other neighboring beaches. So the conservation, preservation, and public access of Pensacola Beach is key and a big part of why I'm running. You know, once we lose the family atmosphere and the atmosphere we have on the beach, it would be so difficult to get that back. And I think that really is what separates Pensacola Beach, even from Perdido Key, Gulf Shores, Destin, Panama City. And so I think that's what brings people to us, is that it is a little bit more laid back. That's something I've enjoyed about since I've been back 6 years ago, is the atmosphere and it's easygoing. So it's something we can do, but I would not want to do that. Thank you.
All right, last question. And listen tight, because it's kind of a biggie, okay? The federal government spent a total of $25 million rebuilding the road to Fort Pickens after Hurricane Ivan and Dennis in 2004-2005, and $3.4 million to relocate part of the road in 2016. Officials with Gulf Islands National Seashore have warned that at some point it may become too expensive to continue to repair the road, and there will need to be other options for accessing the area. What solutions would you support, and would you consider an eventual abandonment to the road to Fort Pickens?
Yes, there has been talk about other ways, other means to do that, that we could do. It is a lot of money that we're spending out there. It is the federal government is doing it, and getting that money out there to get people out to see Fort Pickens. I think Fort Pickens, you look at ecotourism, historical tourism, it does play a big part in that. And so do the costs outweigh the benefits? What benefit are we getting from that? But again, as you said, we look at alternatives. Now we do have a ferry going out to Fort Pickens, and maybe a way to expand that. There are people that use that for a campground, and things like that. So Again, I think in order, it fits with our Pensacola, it fits with our heritage, it fits with, again, this quaint beach town and being able to go out there and use it, but you have to weigh the cost versus the benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, there, you know, when you talk about that amount of money, it's still, even though it's federal money, it's still our tax dollars. You know, regardless if it's a local taxes or it's federal taxes, it's still tax dollars being spent on it. But it is a national park, you know? I mean, it's a, you know, so it's not a local park, you know? And I would like to see them maintain that road, you know? And I know there's some concerns, you know, we have a lot of bird nesting sites out there and everything else, but I would like to see that road maintained. And I'd like to see us keep the current setup like we have it. Even though we have the ferry system, I just don't see that as an alternative that's going to what we have now. And it is what makes Pensacola part of Pensacola. You know, it's part of our heritage, and so I'd love to keep that just the way it is.
Well, thank goodness we have a great ferry system for, sorry, I was sarcastic. There's many islands, and I visited in America, Alcatraz, Mackinac Island up in Michigan. No cars are allowed on there at all. You know, it is a ferry system. If there is such a demand for Fort Pickens to, you know, be visited, I haven't looked at the numbers to be honest with you, but if there is the demand, there will be a service available. One thing that I have often heard, and I have not done the research on, but I'd like to hear opinions on, is the road that was rebuilt wasn't done correctly, or wasn't done high enough. If that's the case, you know, why, I don't want to spend any more money if we're not going to do something correctly. And once again, it's the government is band-aiding something instead of actually creating a solution. And that's what we have to be in the business of doing, is creating solutions and then being a better steward of your tax dollars.
Thank you so much this evening, and that concludes our District 4 candidates. Hope you all enjoyed it.